Hey everyone, my name is Kretz, and today, in the last day of 2017, we are reviewing and testing quite an old Canon lens with a very modern Canon camera. Let's go! Intro. First of all, a little statement. I have never been interested in any gear reviews, but what happened recently just looks like making me getting into this. I've been a real fan of Christopher Frost Photography YouTube channel. This is a brilliant British guy who's making these beautiful and very detailed camera lens reviews and tests and camera gear and so on and so forth. And according to his words, he has reviewed over 150 camera lenses. Can you imagine this amount? They're mostly Canon lenses, but he's also reviewed Tamron and Sigmas and all these third-party lenses. So he's a really good guy. Check him out. If you're looking for a lens, just look at his review. You'll get all the knowledge about the concrete lens that you ever need. This year, 2017, I got stuck. I really got so deeply involved into video shooting, into video making, filmmaking, call it whatever you want, and into the camera gear and lenses and so on. So I accidentally bumped into this Christopher's channel and I watched several of his reviews. Actually, I watched the reviews of the lenses that I've already had in my bag, and I started watching different other reviews for probably the lenses that I will be wishing to have. And after looking for several lenses, I actually watched the reviews on Christopher's channel and I bought those lenses, and I was never disappointed. His reviews are so precise that everything that he told through these reviews turned out to be really true, and I've already bought, due to his channel, thanks to his channel, I've bought Sigma 70-50 f2.8, and this was my first 2.8 lens. Previously I had a couple of Chinese lenses of 1.8 and f2, and I really fell in love with 2.8. This is my favorite aperture of all times. And after buying Sigmas, I was watching different reviews and I decided that I want some pancake lenses, so I bought two pancake lenses from Canon, which are 24mm f2.8, which I'm shooting with right now, and 40mm, which I got just today in the morning. I have grabbed it from the post office. And then some evening, having a spare time and just having my tea and watching through the Canon lens reviews on the Christopher's channel, I just bumped into this lens, these little, not little actually, but very beautiful lens. You can see it. This is 15-85 EF-S USM IS lens. And I decided why not to finally replace my kit lens. And actually some would say this is quite an old lens, and why would you need this quite dark aperture, which is the same as the kit lens. But I have some reasons for buying this, and I'll tell you about them right now. And right next to it we'll be testing this lens on a very modern Canon camera. I'm not gonna make a detailed review of this lens because you can find it of course on the Christopher's channel, so for any details just look at the review on his channel. And one guy in the comment section under the Christopher's review asked if this lens is still good in 2017. And I realized that I already have this lens, and I have this modern Canon camera. So, while it is still 2017, why don't we find it out right now? By the way, as far as I remember, this lens was originally launched in 2009. Alright, here's the list of my personal advantages of this lens, just for myself. As you can see, the last point is stabilized handheld. Sounds quite weird, right? But I'll tell you and I'll show you what I mean by this in the end of this video when we're gonna be testing this lens with this camera. And for now, just let's go through my list and see why I just really purchased this lens. First of all, of course, it's the very cool replacement for my kit lens, which is 18-55, and I have a very old 18-55 IS2 lens, which is noisy. It has no modern autofocusing system like an STM, so this is very noisy. It's quite dark. It's a standard kit lens, 3.5 to 5.6, so nothing interesting in that. And this lens has absolutely the same characteristics, the same aperture. It has the image stabilization, the same as the kit lens, but it has a really wide focal range, which is from 15 to 85, which is much bigger than 18 to 55. So that's a very cool replacement, but it has some other features which I never had before in my life with my lenses. I'm actually not so experienced to have a lot of lenses in my hand, but actually I had about 10 lenses. I kept them in my hands and I know the difference. And this lens is the very most beautiful, absolutely brilliantly built lens that I ever kept in my hands. This is so nice. It's really a pleasure to touch it and to have it and to keep it. And it's very solid, very cool lens to have in your hand. Well, the second thing, this is my actually first USM focusing system lens. I had some Chinese noisy lens before with an unnamed focusing system. I had an old standard kit lens which is very noisy. I have Sigma's HSM which is quite noisy but very fast and precise. And I have these couple of STMs which are almost completely silent. But this is my really first USM lens. And USM systems, as could be judged from the Kretz reviews, the USM systems can differ in noise, but this one, I watched the review and heard that, and I tested it of course as soon as I purchased it. This one is a really quiet USM item, and we'll just check it out right now. This is also my first fully manual focusing lens. As you can see here, it has the nice focusing ring which you can turn at any time, and it makes not a big difference actually, but it's really nice to have it. And this is my first lens ever of this type. So, and the next point, this is my actually really first lens with the focusing distance window, which you can see right here. I've just showed it to you. It makes also not a big difference because I don't use it anyway, but it's really nice to have it just to get acquainted with it. Anyway, all of my other lenses don't have this focusing distance window. Hey fellow, haven't you forgot that we gathered here to watch this lens working on a modern camera? Absolutely! Let's do this! And finally, here we are shooting with the Canon zoom lens 15 to 85, 3.5 to 5.6 IS USM lens at the same focal range of 24mm, which I was shooting my pancake previously, so it must look the same, but of course the aperture is much darker. It's 4.0, which is really much darker, so my camera had to go to 1600 ISO while previously it was 800, and I'm shooting this lens now with my Canon EOS 200D or SL2 internationally. This is one of the most recent, or probably the latest camera from Canon, which went out with the Canon 6D Mark II. So this is a really modern camera. And let's check out the distance. This is 24 as I've said, and you can now see it in 15. This is much wider. Oh, by the way, don't pay to my uncovered couch here. I have a lot of job in my studio recently, so I had to take a nap. Just don't pay any attention to the mess in my studio. I'm preparing for a new year here. Alright, so let's get back from 15 to probably all the way to 85. And I can use my tripod. You can see my drums here and zooming out actually. So let's get back to 24. So here's me again at 24, which looks nice, a bit darker of course, but really nice. And about focusing, as we were talking, the USM, if it's noisy or not. I think this type of USM motor is not noisy at all. You'll probably hear it when I'm gonna be shut up. But as of right now, I'm not sure that you hear any focusing noise from the motor as I'm moving around and talking. I'm not sure you hear it. So let's try it with the complete silence. This is a really silent autofocusing system, and pay attention, this is a sound recording studio, so it has a lot of acoustic treatment. This is a really deadly quiet room, and I can make you sure you'll never hear this lens focusing in an outside in a crowded area. So this is a really silent and very fast and precise autofocusing system. So as you can see, this lens works brilliantly on modern cameras and has no actually any disadvantages. It only has the darker aperture. It would be brilliant to have a 2.8, which is my favorite. But anyway, this is a very cool zoom lens from Canon, and it works very fine on a modern camera. So this was my brief overview of this beautiful replacement for a kit lens from Canon, and a big shout out to Christopher Frost Photography YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel if you want to know more about camera lenses and you want to buy a decent lens. This guy has detailed reviews. But and of course he did not pay me to say this, I just really love his channel. And subscribe to my channel. My videos are mostly in Russian, but recently I started to shoot in English, and I'm gonna be shooting a lot more in English, probably going full-time English channel. But anyway, just subscribe to my channel and see you soon. Whoa, don't go! What about that handheld stabilized that you promised us? Alright, in case you're asking, what I mean by handheld stabilized is that shooting video blogs, vlogging, or shooting selfies, it is really important to have the image stabilization, which this lens really has. But the interesting thing is that if I'm taking this camera away from the tripod and I'm gonna be shooting myself, usually we're doing this by holding the camera, and with this lens and this particular camera I figured out that it is much more convenient and much more stabilized by keeping your camera and holding by the lens. So I'm grabbing just the lens here. I'm not sure if you can see it in the mirror how I'm doing this. I believe you can see it here. Alright, so I'm just grabbing it with my lens. Alright, find my face. Fine, thanks. And why is this so convenient? Because this camera 200D or SL2 internationally is really light. It's just below a half a kilogram, and this lens is just about the same weight, and actually they balancing each other well. So if I'm grabbing the lens, it's not gonna fall from my hand, and they're balancing very fine. And so you can see as I'm moving around and keeping my hand on the lens, it's just almost like I'm shooting with a gimbal, because, you know, due to the physical angles and the ranges are different, it is not so shaky actually. I can hold the lens and move it around and pan and walk here and there, and that's what I call a handheld stabilized. So with this lens, vlogging and shooting yourself is much easier, because the camera is very light, not that light to hold it so long, so I changed my hand. But the camera is really light and the lens is quite heavy, so they fit brilliantly to each other. And that's the end of my review. Have a nice time, have a nice holiday, and see you in 2018. Cheers! Oh no, that was not the end actually. I grabbed the camera from the tripod and left it at 24mm. Now let's see how it looks at 15. It's much wider for vlogging and for shooting selfies, for shooting yourself. And here's how it looks at 3.5 aperture at 15mm. Really brilliant, and with my personal handheld stabilized style. Alright, now peace out.